Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Trade the Chain. And a fantastic week it's been. Another all-time high hit. But it is Friday, December 18th, so happy Friday to everyone. An exciting week to be had. Let me go to Ryan real quick to get some disclaimers out of the way before we proceed to the big boards.
Yes, sir. Just a reminder that all content and information provided by Trade the Chain is for informational purposes only. I don't know if this is investment advice and should not be construed as such.
Now, before the plug starts, I did skip part of that intro, and we don't edit on this show. But I will say real quickly on today's hot or not list, obviously, we're going to have an overweighted hot list going on today just because of the broader markets being in such an upswing. So we're going to cover Nexo. We're going to cover Litecoin, ticker LTC. We're going to cover Elon Musk's favorite coin, Dogecoin. Doge, as well as Augur, ticker REP, REP. We do have one that we're going to cover on the not list, and that is Voyager, tickers VGX. We know our friend Steve watches the show, but it is nothing against him. It's just had a little bit retracement, and we want to go over the technicals on it. After that, Ryan is going to bring us some really exciting news, and it is about Coinbase's IPO. And so we'll see what that's all about. But first, we're going to CJ and Monty on the big boards after our shameless plugs.
Trade the Chain is brought to you by Trade the Chain, a SIG and social media sentiment-based dashboard and trading community where traders from around the world, 17 time zones at this point, around the world gather to take advantage of social sentiment data, price predictions, and a whole host of other real-time SIGDEV indicators and share ideas amongst each other in our community. That's accessible on desktop, mobile, or any other device that you have. TradeTheChain.com.
Love the interface.
It's great, isn't it?
Coin market cap killer. But anyways, yeah, and then Market Rebellion. Our community is just over a month into launch now. We've got a lot of ambitious stuff going on. If you want to sign up for our trade insights that we publish each week, as well as our macro portfolio, you can join just for $1 today. And you can attend webinars, interact with the community. We're going to have more education curriculum being published soon. But if you want to check that out, you can try a trial for just $1, and you can go to marketrebellion.com/crypto. But without further ado, let's talk about Bitcoin. And before we talk about the technicals, I want to talk a little bit about the general dynamic going on in the market, because we are at a pretty special time after breaking all-time highs. And Ryan had pointed this out on Twitter a little bit earlier in the week, but we actually have tweet volume that is up. Let's see how much the tweet volume is up. So we're reaching 3-year highs in tweet volume. And so we've said this a million times, but the majority of this rally going from 10K to 18K was driven by institutions and hedge funds. We can statistically measure that. It's just been proven. However, judging by the fact that we just had that massive run up from, just new highs of like 20K straight to almost 24K. I mean, I think we went to 23.8 at a high. But I think that that extra parabolic move was likely due to retail stepping in. And as you can see here, with the Twitter data is significant enough, but we also have mainstream rappers talking about Bitcoin again. Juicy J, 2.7 million followers. And then the other one here that Ryan also mentioned before the show, this is just a compliance nightmare, but this particular person has 5 million followers. And they're saying, hotties, Bitcoin is a really smart investment and increases over time. Make sure y'all keep dropping y'all's Cash App names so you can make them smart money moves. So this type of stuff scares me.
This is it, CJ. Bitcoin's gone mainstream. This is it. This legitimized the whole market right now.
Megan Thee Stallion is not a fiduciary, just in case anyone was wondering.
This is why we have a disclaimer at the beginning of the episode, Ryan.
Yeah.
But you can see what I'm getting at and the point that I'm trying to make. And that doesn't mean we can't go up even more in the interim. I mean, I do think we're in a bubble, but when we look at the actual like price action on a shorter term time frame on the 1 hour, you can see that Bitcoin's putting in some lower highs and is not necessarily having that bullish momentum to keep continuing. So the more we actually consolidate above 22K, the less likely I think we will actually go all the way down to 18K. The longer we end up consolidating above this range, the more likely I'm inclined to believe that we're only going to see a drawdown to something like 20K. Because if you remember, we had a lot of resistance going into 20K, initially breaking it. So if we can flip that and make it support now in the new trend, we may have a bullish outlook after the next pullback. So.
One thing, CJ, to follow up on you mentioning Megan Thee Stallion talking about Bitcoin on Twitter, she gave away $1 million worth of Bitcoin in $11 increments. Her original tweet got nearly 10,000 retweets, well over 9,000 quote tweets, and nearly 70,000 likes. Relative tweet volume is up almost 62% in the past 24 hours for Bitcoin, according to Trade the Chain's dashboard. I mean, you have her tweeting about it. Then you have Jack, Twitter's founder, retweeting her and getting into the thousands of interactions on his tweet as well. I mean, that has to be a significant factor behind the increase in tweet volume and the retail FOMO kicking in over the past, say, I don't know. Well, she did it on December 17th, so that was so yesterday. So I can see how that
Dorsey picked up on it. He tweeted that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't think that there's any doubt that this kind of is an indication that retail interest is increasing. And I think one thing that's definitely worth noting here is like, this wasn't someone that's involved in the tech space that's tweeting about it. This wasn't Elon Musk. This is like rappers and people that don't really have any experience delving into Bitcoin. So I think their audiences are kind of being exposed to something new here. Whereas if you have someone tweeting about Bitcoin that's been like a known advocate for Bitcoin, it's kind of less significant because their followers are likely already exposed to it. So this, I think this definitely played a role in the bull run and got a lot of people using Bitcoin. So it's good to see.
Are we looking at,
what?
Go ahead, Ryan.
178,000 comments on that original tweet. That's staggering. That's staggering.
So are we now looking at the inflow of retail FOMO? Is the retail FOMO machine now going to come in and drive this to a higher high?
No, I don't think that's here yet. I'm still kind of going with the thesis that we're due for a bit of a drawback here, because I think in this instance, like, you can get the retail money flowing in and still not be at that FOMO stage yet. I think this is going to be an instance of where like the money is a bit more fickle than the institutional money we've seen in the past. So these people are going to be more likely to sell for a quick profit. So I think that this is going to kind of just result in reversal and back to a range that we've seen in the past. I think it's interesting to note kind of where we are now, like CJ mentioned, because we didn't get the immediate reversal that we were kind of looking for during the first run up. I think we're looking a little bit better for a more sustained and less significant drawback. We already, on the hourly chart, we got a nice support on 22.3K at the setup trend line for that last 9 on sequential. So that to me is kind of indicative that we're not going to get the drawback today or maybe even tomorrow. So I like to see this consolidation above 20K. I think that's bullish, but I don't think we're at the retail FOMO period just yet.
Something we talked about back on Wednesday, sorry, Alex, but something we talked about earlier this week on our other episode when Bitcoin first went up to its new high was the idea that the increase in institutional buying is, establishing this price floor that we're seeing now. And the retail FOMO trade may help pump it up and down a little bit more, like volatility wise, but ultimately the amount of money going into this from the retail space, and only more announcements have come out since that episode. It creates a bit of a price floor where there's only so far down Bitcoin can potentially drop in theory. Yes?
Yeah, I agree with that point. And we've talked about how since institutions have been driving the initial rally, that is probably going to create some type of higher floor. We can also measure that by looking at the amount of wallets that have left exchanges. And so there's a scarcity of Bitcoins on exchanges to be sold. However, when you do have retail FOMO and you have those incredible numbers that you just mentioned on a tweet advertising mainstream people to buy Bitcoin, it's so interesting because we never see that about like Tesla stock or Apple stock. It's a unique thing to Bitcoin. But when people buy based on something they see like that, those are the types of buyers that are more likely to get shaken out in the interim and with a short-term sell-off. So we still may see a pullback to 20K. I still think we're going to, based on other metrics. I think a shakeout is likely, but we'll have to see.
All right, let's pop over to Ethereum. I begin to love Ethereum more and more every day. I've always, and I haven't always loved it, by the way, but this year, particularly the second half of the year, I mean, you just look at the multiples on return Ethereum has done, just even over Bitcoin per se, and the impact it's had. This is a machine that just won't stop. And there's even been rumors that Ethereum will out-dominate Bitcoin in market cap in the future. What's ETH doing for us this week in this run?
Yeah, it's performing great. Like you said, the returns have been very impressive. And I think what is most notable here is the chart for me feels a bit more sustained than the Bitcoin chart. So I'm looking at less of a significant pullback here in the interim. I mean, we've kind of been harping on this for a while, but it seems like a pullback is inevitable. And when that does happen in Bitcoin, I mean, just looking at these two charts, you can tell that they have been largely correlated throughout this bull run. But I think when Bitcoin pulls back, ETH will pull back, but it's going to be to a lesser extent because this has just been a more sustained uptrend. The technicals look a bit more solid. It's got support in the form of that TD setup and also the ascending triangle that CJ highlighted here. So I think ETH chart is looking really strong. And yeah, I'm going to be looking to see kind of how it moves in tandem with Bitcoin when we do get that inevitable sell-off back into some previous ranges.
An interesting thing fundamentally about Ethereum and the reason why you mentioned, Alex, I think the reason why people may believe that ETH may have a higher market cap than Bitcoin in the future is the concept of tokenizing assets, specifically with stocks. And then you have, non-fungible tokens. But specifically when you tokenize assets, let's say if you, took all the shares of Tesla and replaced them with tokens. So then you could transact with them, you could trade them 24/7. You could actually pay for things with Tesla stock if it was tokenized. Earlier this week, Germany legalized digitized securities. So security tokens like the tokenization of stocks, like the tokenization of other assets, Germany and other Europeans are likely going to embrace this aspect of innovation, and likely all of these tokenized assets will be built on Ethereum. So if people believe that narrative and it becomes just further and further extrapolated, then I could see Ethereum going to extremely high levels, like unforeseen levels. But that's a narrative that people are going to have to believe.
What about the impact of CME futures that were announced earlier this week? I mean, you didn't really see institutional uptake of Bitcoin on a scale that we have now until well after futures came out. That's kind of an entree for an institution into being able to interact and transact, or not transact, but interact with a vehicle. Do you think that ultimately will down the road lead to increased adoption of Ethereum? And do you think it'll also take as long as it did with Bitcoin for institutions to gain traction with it? Or do you think because they're a little more comfortable and familiar with the space, they'll pick up on Ethereum sooner?
Yeah, those are great questions. We don't exactly know how they'll play out. I think that they will be a little bit more flexible, especially when they realize the money that's to be made, because in volatility, like that's the number one thing traders are after. They're just after volatility. And if Ethereum continues to be extremely volatile with Bitcoin in this next market cycle, then having a vehicle to be able to trade futures around it through the CME is incredibly advantageous for institutional traders and gives them an entree into the space. I like how you put that. But it's absolutely true. And I think it will lead to further adoption of Ethereum because everybody needs a first taste to walk into the door of the ecosystem. But once you're in, you're in.
It's a drug. Yeah, no, I mean, folks, remember, unlike Bitcoin, Ethereum is plentiful. You could print supply. based on projects. So, you know, when you have security tokens, there's printing, deleting going on. So just to what CJ was saying, just by sheer mass of production of ERC20, you know, you're creating market cap dominance in that factor, not just because of price action. All right, let's go over to the hot or not list. We got we got a handful on the hot list. Let's first start off with Nexo. Nexo has been doing some pretty good things here. It's been popping up both on the social media relative volume radar as well as the candlesticks.
What a trend. What a
Wow.
beautiful trend. Let me get this on the big screen so you guys can just see it a little better.
Well, that's nice.
Wow.
We don't even have to really talk about it. We could just sit here and look at it and just, you know, like we're at a museum.
There's not much to say. Like, if you own it, you just continue to hold it till it makes a higher low. And if you don't own it, you know, if you want to chase bubbles, you know, I guess you can make that trade, but
It's for the past week or so on Trade the Chain, it's been in the top 4, pretty much in the second or third slot for hottest on Twitter in terms of tweet volume, with tweet volume of hundreds of percent day on day over the 30-day moving average. So I think that there might be something behind it. There's a community behind it, but there's another coin that we have. Alex, do you want to go to Litecoin now? Because there's an amazing number on the dashboard.
I don't want to go to Litecoin, but I will because
Look at that. Look at that. No, go to Litecoin on the Trade the Chain dashboard real quick and look at the long-term sentiment. It's over 100. That's the first time a coin's gone above 100 on the Trade the Chain sentiment since we launched the website. And Josh was talking about that in the AMA, and he said that once it goes over 100, that means it's just beyond uber bullish, and they can't really measure how bullish the coin is and what the upside potential is there.
I also think it's the first time it's had a very bullish indicator since 2017.
You're very right. I mean, there's nothing behind this. It's there. I mean, no one's building projects on Litecoin. There's nothing really behind it. It's just maybe people remember the name from the last boom, and they're like, "Oh, Litecoin went up then, so I'm going to get into it now because it's going to do the same thing."
Why? Why though? Why? Somebody point out some fundamental reason on why there's, you know, Litecoin is having this speculative bubble going on.
The smart money is pumping it so it can leave the uneducated retail investors holding an empty bag when they exit. I don't know anything else behind it.
I mean, if we're trying to analyze these projects on fundamental metrics, I don't think that's the right way to go about it. You know, Dogecoin is on the hot list today. I think that's proof enough that fundamentals are somewhat irrelevant in this market.
That's because it's entertaining, CJ. Doge is entertaining.
We just wanted to laugh. That's why we put it on there.
Yeah, Litecoin's like a bad rash.
Yeah.
I do want to make this point because I think it's very important and very indicative of crypto. And that's the concept that like fundamentals don't really matter in a project. I mean, they do. It's about the fundamental story and the narrative that people believe and what drives it. If XRP starts trending in price very similar to the way it did in 2017, I don't have problems buying it. I know that it's likely a scam and it does not have, scam is a bit of a harsh word, but it's not fundamentally sound like a project like Bitcoin. But if a market is trending and there's a psychological clear move that's occurring, all you have to do, or all that I have to do, is just recognize that is occurring and put myself in a position where I can capitalize on it. There doesn't need to be a fundamental narrative as long as people are buying it and it's trending.
I just want to say CJ is going to receive death threats from the XRP army now.
I might buy XRP. I'm not saying they're wrong.
I got out before it really crashed. I got my Flare airdrop coming to me. See what happens.
All right, let's move on to Dogecoin, Elon Musk's favorite crypto in the whole world, and see what the coin about nothing is doing. It's almost like it's the Seinfeld of crypto. It's the coin about nothing.
Yeah, I think this just really speaks to what CJ was talking about, where it's like you can't always look for a fundamental reason why an asset is performing well. Like with crypto, there's a few things that kind of dictate the success of a project. And one thing is a community, one thing is its time-tested nature. This kind of has both of those. I mean, it's when there's hype around crypto, people kind of look at this, even though it is a joke, like there is still a large community that like looks at Dogecoin when crypto starts to pop. So yeah, and I think this kind of is maybe like a microcosm of the example of Litecoin, right? Because like Litecoin doesn't really have, like you said, Alex, any utility or anything that's kind of supporting this run. But you can anticipate that if Bitcoin does go parabolic like we're expecting it to during the next bull run, Litecoin's going to go up. It doesn't matter what it's doing in the next year. If Bitcoin goes up, Litecoin's going to go up too. So I think the same is true with Dogecoin, and people are just kind of going along on these coins while they still can.
I mean, there's, you look at Dogecoin more so than Litecoin, but you look at the consolidated space of the candles in each of those, periods. Like zoom in a little. I mean, and then of course you have, right before 1124 there, you have a big body up, big body down. But you look at all the others, and they're almost like dojis all the way through the fall.
Yeah, it actually is impressive the way it kind of is consolidating. I mean, if it doesn't immediately crash back down, we may actually see some more of those candles and more sideways price action. So,
all right, we'll let the Doge be the Doge. On to the next one, which is Augur, and its ticker is REP, REP. Augur is, not a lot of noise coming out of Augur in the last year. So really would like to take a look at this and see what's going on. But would also, this is actually, when this came on the list for our show, I actually want to start taking a look into Augur, because Augur had a lot of hype coming out when it first launched, and sort of died down. But here we are again. Look at that.
Damn.
Yeah, and this is one that I just happened to be looking at the Trade the Chain dashboard, and I saw the tweet volume spike, and then sure enough, the trade volume spiked right after. And I wasn't sure what's going on, but I looked on Twitter, and apparently their open interest hit an all-time high. For those that don't know, they're kind of a market maker for wagering. So you can they make markets for a lot of different things. They've made markets for sports games. They've made markets for political elections. And one of the most recent ones that's getting a ton of people wagering on it is regarding whether or not there's going to be KYC protocol implemented for withdrawing Bitcoin across all exchanges by the government in the next 2 weeks. So people are wagering on that right now, and there's a lot of, I guess, wagering going on. But I think just the use case of Augur in general, of the ability to make markets on the blockchain, I think is going to be, it's a use case that actually I think could be valid in the future. We're already seeing a shift, stepping back from crypto. We're already seeing a shift towards more casinos and stuff going online, and gambling becoming legal in more states in the United States. So I think that something like this, where you can make markets for anything, legitimate markets that can be tracked on the blockchain and you can see the participation, this is a legitimate use case. So yeah, it was cool to see it really pop like that.
There it is, Augur. I do want to do an honorable mention this week. It's down a couple percent right now, but I had a good run up, and that is Spankcoin. I'm not sure if we have a chart for it, but it's okay. Spankcoin is one of those little small cap guys. So moving on to the not list. I won't make you pull that up, CJ.
Yeah, I'm not
Wait,
going to
Alex, Alex, if you're going to mention Spankcoin, it's worth mentioning that it's up nearly 76% year to date, and almost 19% on the 7-day average. I mean, we sit here and laugh at it, but there are people who have made a good deal of money on it this year. 76% that's a hell of a return in a traditional market.
I'm okay. All right. Full disclosure. 2018, I was trading in that Spankcoin. I'm not gonna lie. Somebody at another service provider in crypto told me about it. The whole the whole pool was getting in on it on the desk over there. And I was like, really, what? And they're like, yeah, here are the reasons it's going to go up. I was like, all right, let me throw down on the spank coin. Made some money.
I mean, the volume is only in like, it's not very much, but I mean, for someone who saw a pattern and got in and held on, I mean, they made a decent amount of money. Whoever that is, good for them.
What exchange did you use to buy that? I'm just curious. Uniswap?
Who, me?
No, Alex.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say, I don't know.
Oh no, it was it literally was atomic swaps. It was the only
Oh,
one.
wow.
Yeah. So it was when atomic swaps first became relatively known and popular, and that's the only way we could do it. It was like meeting a guy in the street corner. You got some spank coin? I was like, yeah, I use spank coin.
Okay.
The show is really, we've hit rock bottom. Next step's rehab for us. All right, let's move on to Voyager VGX on the not list. Again, this is not a knock on our good friend Steve, CEO over there. Voyager has had a few retracements here, but I actually, want to get some commentary from Ryan on this. He, in a fully disclosed position, owns a decent amount of this chunk. Well, everybody in the show owns some VGX, but Ryan is more vocal than others on it. No need.
No, I mean, I'm relatively happy with how it's performing. I just, I guess
Ryan.
I'm impatient for it to get where it's ultimately supposed to or hopefully go. I think, I like collecting interest on it. And, as you were mentioning earlier, Alex, volume has ticked up in VGX, and that could be for any number of reasons, but hopefully it's because there's more adoption. And if there's more adoption, then hopefully that drives the price up higher. I love Voyager as a platform. That's where I trade a decent amount of my crypto. So I'm fine.
I think Voyager should be $1 plus token. Honestly, I mean, with as much. I think we're a little biased too, right? We know the team over there, and we know how hard they work, and we know the product that they're putting out and stuff like that. So we see the value in that. I think this thing should be on fire. In all honesty, I mean, you got Mashinsky over at Celsius, who's equally hardworking entrepreneur and CEO, and you've seen the price action on Cell Token over the last 12 months, which has been ridiculous. I think that VGX deserves to be following that pattern. That's my own opinion.
I think one really good comparison, and one of the reasons that really got me excited about Voyager's potential for growth when I first invested in it, was that I was comparing it to similar coins about where it could go in the future. And one of the coins that's very similar to it is Huobi token. And that's the exchange Huobi in Asia. They're massive. Their coin doesn't really have any utility, but it's representative of like a share or a token of their company, very similar to how Voyager is. So if Voyager grows to that level, even in a neutral market, Huobi token is a very similar total circulating supply as Voyager. So they're very comparable tokens. And Huobi token is trading for about $4 right now. You'd have.
Sorry to cut you off. Just looking, I mean, they're up in the last month. They're up 23.5% Voyager, and this week they're up. What was it? 9.1%. So it's not like it's performing poorly.
No,
but we're just comparing it to the returns we see elsewhere in digital assets, and I guess it's just not. It doesn't hit that benchmark, I guess, especially when you're looking at Bitcoin and ETH and Doge. God bless Doge.
Well, let me ask you this, CJ Monty. What's the Doge has offices?
No, it doesn't. Come on.
So CJ Monty, let me ask you this. What is there a compelling argument to be in the stock as well as the token? And for everybody who doesn't know, VGX is or Voyager is traded on TSX up in Canada on the stock exchange publicly. But I don't own the stock. I feel like I'm talking myself into it on some days though.
I'd like to own the stock. I'd like to trade options on the stock, but they're only Canada, so I can't. But crazy increase in the price of stock. If Bitcoin goes to 100, 200K, I mean, Voyager stock's going to be worth $10. there's going to be so much more volume coming into that brokerage platform and so much wealth created from the early investors. So it's going to be an interesting thing to continue to watch going forward here.
Yeah, we already saw that they did 1,000% year-over-year revenue from last year in their last public filings and stuff like that. So they have an upward trend trajectory, and we definitely wish Steve and team all the best of luck. And as you guys know, we're full of just disclosures here, fully disclosed. Market Rebellion Voyager partners in the Market Rebellion platform.
Also, Alex, sorry, I keep cutting everyone off. I'm that jerk today. But VGX and LGO, right? There's some kind of a coin merger going on as well. So that should bring that many more users into the VGX ecosystem. And
the interesting thing about why, we asked Steve when he was on a roundtable, why did you guys do this? Why LGO? And he's like, well, they are. And I've heard from some of the industry leaders, like they are good. They know what they're doing. And they chose LGO to kind of forefront their European expansion to allow the UK and many other European countries to buy VGX and to start participating in that interest. I mean, even in Market Rebellion community, we have individuals from the UK and internationally who don't have access to Voyager and they really want it. So seeing that LGO is going to lead that European expansion just makes me very bullish. And I think you're right to point that out, Ryan.
Yeah, 100%. I think the European expansion for them is going to be huge. It's a big market over there. It has a few players that are counterparts to Voyager, but if Voyager can replicate its success, and I mean huge success, and by huge success, I mean its operability as a broker, which has been very successful in Europe, I think it's nothing but up for them. So huge.
Yeah,
I'll say go ahead, Monty.
No, I was probably going to take your point here because I saw you put this in our chat earlier, that on the 4 hour, just technically speaking, we're getting this nice red 9. It's kind of bouncing off also the greater macro ascending triangle that CJ pointed out to us earlier. So although like we got that sharp sell-off following the run up, and I think the part of the problem is people want this chart to look like the Voyager chart, the stock chart, like because they keep announcing all this added utility, like we mentioned the LGO merger and also the desktop platform. But I think, like Ryan mentioned, a big takeaway here is that the relative trade volume has increased a lot. So I think the new bottom is in here. And although people are kind of frustrated that it's already sold back down to 16 cents, it looks to me, based on this formation, you've got the red 9, you've got the 2 preceding doji candles. It's looking like a reversal's in. And for me, with the increase in trade volume overall this week was a huge plus for Voyager token.
I just bought more actually as we were speaking. So let's see how it goes between now and the next episode. We'll see if it pans out for me.
All right, good.
Real world experiences. I like it, Ryan. Now, Ryan, you got something that's exciting in the market of trading, and that is Coinbase's IPO filing. Now, this isn't some new news. I mean, there was rumors of it, beginning of the year, end of last year, and all that stuff. But wow, that's quite the picture right there. But take us through what this means and what they're looking to do.
Right. So they're looking what an IPO is for people who aren't familiar, who are mostly in the digital asset markets versus the traditional ones, is an initial public offering, and that means that Coinbase is going to, for the first time, sell stock on a publicly, on an exchange, so that it'll be available publicly. And in an IPO, you're buying stock directly from the company, and then all trades after that are on what's called the secondary market, and you're just trading them among other stockholders. And the money will go directly to Coinbase to fund operations, expansions, and what have you. And its last valuation, Coinbase is worth what, 8 billion? And some estimates out there are saying it's now worth 28 billion. And this has to be down to just increasing awareness and adoption in Bitcoin, because it's not down to their tech stack improving or the exchange staying up when Bitcoin go up. But we were joking before that every time number go up, Coinbase go down. And it's like clockwork. It never fails. And it's just, it makes you wonder where their priorities are, if they care more about making money or they care more about their users, because it's a landmark moment for the digital asset industry for sure, but they can't even get the thing to work, let alone they're spending all their money on lawyers and filings. They're not spending it on making the exchange do what it's supposed to do, exchange assets. I mean, I think the timing is a little weird given how many times Coinbase has gone down recently.
Oh, it's become a joke now. When markets go up, Coinbase goes down, as you said. And I think just in the last 4 months, it's gone down something like 5 times. And it's always happening during the critical moments of volatility. Now, you know, that being said, I do find humor in a joke that I saw on Twitter today, which said, wouldn't that be funny if Coinbase IPOs and during the IPO, the New York Stock Exchange goes down?
But like, if a traditional asset exchange went down as often as Coinbase did, I mean, there'd be like
There'd be
agents
lawsuits
knocking on the door. Like the regulators wonder what is going on, and it makes you wonder if the regulators are going to be much more stringent and scrutinize their operations, and they're going to have to find ways to keep it up after they go public because it hurts their revenue, it hurts their valuations, and it could ultimately hurt shareholders and be seen as negligent. No?
I think so. I listen, I only use Coinbase for on-off ramps and fiat.
Yeah, it's pretty like crazy to think about how little Coinbase has changed technologically speaking in the last 3 years since 2017 when I probably last used Coinbase. It's pretty much the exact same, and they've progressed in so many other ways. Like Ryan mentioned, it seems like their priorities are on the lawyers and the legal end and not on the improving the technology end. So yeah, it's just never been a great user experience.
You'd think between now and 2017 that every time Bitcoin hits a high and people want to lock in profits, they have to mash the button on their phone to sell it 1,000 times because it keeps going down. But that's the Coinbase user experience.
I don't know if you guys have this over at Market Rebellion, but Ryan and I do in the Trade the Chain community. The reasons we are on top of Coinbase going down is because all of a sudden, all the users in the community that are using Coinbase start posting like screenshots and you know, curse words. But it's remarkable. It's during all the important times. What does this IPO mean in the broader spectrum of the crypto markets now? Now, if you were Brian Armstrong and the CEO, would you want to be the one to test the waters on this? Because this trade could go either way. Coinbase could get crushed if the market doesn't embrace it, or it could be huge win. Do you want to be Brian Armstrong right now doing the first major IPO in space?
There's always been interesting stuff when it comes to IPOs. I mean, Bitmain wanted to IPO, but unfortunately their profitability never allowed them to get that far. I think it's a good move for Coinbase to IPO. I think it brings a lot of legitimacy to the space. In terms of whether or not I would buy the IPO, probably not, because IPOs and the IPO market in general is one of the greatest ways for institutions, specifically banks, to make money off of retail clients who buy IPOs right off the opens. I think it's a landmark event for the space, regardless of Coinbase's reliability. They have such a large audience and people are getting more and more bullish on crypto that the price may just inevitably go up of Coinbase's stock. We're gonna have to see, but it's gonna be very entertaining.
I mean, if you're Brian Armstrong, you get that money from the sale, right? You're going to walk away with some pile of cash. It'll make him significantly wealthier. Of course, I'd IPO if people want to buy the stock. And he's working with Goldman Sachs. They'll find ways to get people to buy the stock. The syndicate will do its job. And, you know, Brian Armstrong is going to walk out of this wealthier no matter what. He'll have his island, so to speak. So
the employees are going to be happy that have been working there for years. Acquisitions like Tagomi, which were paid in stock, are going to be happy because now it's going to be worth money. So those guys are going to make out. But CJ, there was the Canaan Ipo that happened with them, and they're, for folks who don't know, that they're a miner as well. But that stock crumpled once it hit the market, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, in which case I'll just go back and edit. I got it. Hang on one second. We look at some of the other stocks like that, and I know that one didn't fare too well. But that being said, what can we expect for the weekend, guys? Are we gonna stay sideways? Are we gonna have a little up action, a little down action? What's your real quick thinking, short-term sentiment for Saturday, Sunday trading?
As much as I love the bullish price action, I'm ready for a nice, relaxing weekend. So I'm thinking we're gonna get some sideways, maybe neutral to bullish or neutral to bearish price action. That's what I'm expecting.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I would agree. Going to be glued to the screens like we have been this week. So,
and folks, it's a holiday season, so I just want to say happy holidays to everybody. Whatever you're celebrating. Next Friday, actually, next 2 Fridays fall on a holiday, both Christmas and then after that, New Year's. So you'll have people opening up presents next Friday and people hung over the Friday after that. So we will not be coming to you on those Fridays. But if there is market movement in between and something that, drives us to hop on, we'll be here for you, and we'll do an episode midweek like we normally do with those type of situations. So everybody, thank you very much. Happy Friday, happy trading, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, everyone.